The other thing about this data is that 4 students only answered the front side, so they only answered the before and not the after question. And in fact, I think all the way through they missed out the reverse side of the piece of paper. They obviously thought it was one-sided paper. So I've removed those 4 because they only contribute to the before column and not the after column. Now, if you click on competencies on this tab, then there are graphs which are counts of the competencies. Now, I gave a presentation on the an innovative aspect of teaching and learning presentation on group projects in mathematics, and I had tried to do something a bit complicated with these counts in this question to try and get some data out of it, and that I don't think worked very well. What I've tried to do here is I've done a total for each of the 5 blocks. I should say, if you've looked at the questionnaire, they're asked to rate themselves from 1 no competence to 5 fully competent in each of these 11 areas, and I've tried to count up the number of 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s and 5s and plot them before and after. So on these graphs under the competencies tab in the Excel document, there is a blue and a red-ish, purpley kind of column. The blue column is before and the red column is after. So you can see how it's shifted, or how their perception of how their competency has shifted during this project, or before and after this project. So these are ordered into 2 columns. On the left hand side are the competencies or learning outcomes that I thought this project was addressing, and on the right hand side are the ones that I thought were addressed in other parts of the module, problem solving. So the ones on the left are the ones I was targeting, if you like. So what I would like to see here is, on the left hand column, a dramatic shift in increase of competency, and on the right hand side more or less the same. Now actually there is a general positive trend, with some going above and below the trend. So if we go through those. Express problems in the language of mathematics. So there are quite a lot afterwards. There are quite a lot less 3s and more 4s and 5s. So that's nice. They've had an increase. But if you look at question 2, select, adapt and apply standard techniques in a variety of problem areas, that's a similar thing. Less 3s, more 4s and 5s. And actually in that question more 2s. So that's one student who has felt that either they felt that they've got worse, or they've misunderstood the question. Now, that, I don't think there were any standard techniques in this module. I think it was an unusual area of mathematics that they haven't covered before. So selecting and applying standard techniques and adapting standard techniques is not something that they did, but they feel like they're better at it now that they've done the project. Now that might be, I suppose, as a result of working other modules during the same period, or it might be that they're not interpreting standard techniques in the same way that I am, or I don't know. 3, identify assumptions in a mathematical argument. Again, the 3s have gone down and the 4s and 5s have gone up, so again that's a fairly positive result. 4, evaluate, select and implement appropriate numerical and software techniques for a range of problems. Now they have a module in numerical and software techniques, numerical and computational techniques. The 2s and 3s have dropped quite drastically, and the 4s have gone up quite well as well. So that's lovely, but I don't think that was as a result of this project, because they wouldn't have done this. There's no numerical analysis. There's no the only software is sort of PowerPoint and Word for writing reports and that sort of thing. Anyway, so that's perhaps difficult to explain. Using reference information from a variety of sources is the good one, I think. Now I asked them about this as well. What did you get from the project? What have you in conversation? And the most common answer that I got was that referencing was something that they had not been taught before, and they wish they had. So that's reflected here. There are a lot of 1s and 2s in the before column, and they've shifted to 3s, 4s, 5s in the after column, and there's really quite a strong difference there. And if you look at the raw data, there are quite a few who've jumped 2 or 3 points in competence as a result of taking this module. So I think that's a really good news for running that session. Number 6 is communicate effectively using reports and presentations. Again, the number of 3s has shrunk really quite a lot, and the number of 4s and 5s has increased, so they feel like they're getting better at that because they've had a bit of practice at it, I suppose, but also there was a session on report writing, a session on giving presentations, so I'm hoping some of them will feel that they've picked up some useful tips from that and have taken that away, so that's good to see. Work effectively as an individual. Now that's a slightly complicated one because they worked in teams, but within their teams they may have been given individual tasks to do. So although I don't think that was there are essentially 4 projects that they do in problem solving the module, and 2 of them are individual and 2 of them are group, so I'm saying this one is a group and not an individual project, but there's an aspect of individual work in anything that you do, I think, even in group work, so it's hard to say. But anyway, again, the number of 2s and 3s has gone down, the number of 4s has gone up, so they feel a slight positive increase there. Number 8 is work effectively as part of a small team. Now this, well, the numbers of 2s and 3s has gone down and the number of 5s has gone up. No one rated themselves at 5 fully competent before the project, and now some do. 3, I think. Now that is a bit of a shame because I hoped that what I had done is, I mean, they've done team projects before, group projects in other modules, in the first year and in the first semester of the second year. I hoped that they would either be competent already or they would become competent as a result of my mucking about with team roles and trying to explain to them how to manage a team and minutes and planning and all that business. Now, the evidence from here is that they don't feel like, or not many of them feel that that's happened. There were quite a lot of 4s beforehand, there are quite a lot of 4s afterwards. So there are quite a lot of students, it would seem, who felt they were alright at this before and they still feel like they're about the same. 9 is collect, evaluate and analyse data. There's very little shift there. There is a slight shift positively, but not very much, and again that's not something they did in this project. 10, effectively manage your time. Well, I think that any aspect of group work, and particularly where you're given actions to reply to, I was really hoping that would have an effect on time management. There is quite a spread before and there is quite a spread after. But the number of 2s has decreased, and 3s has decreased, and 4s has increased. So there is a positive trend there, but not quite as striking as you might hope, perhaps. Number 11, reflect on your learning and personal, professional planning skills and goals. Now, this was going to be handled by the next project, which I was running after this one, and also partly by this exercise of filling out this questionnaire would, I think, help them reflect on what have I learned doing this project. So that's a slightly muddy area because I'm not sure that taking the project would have much of an effect on this, have them think about their learning and what they've learned. But I would say that doing this feedback exercise should get them to think, where was I 2 months ago, where am I now, how have I developed as a person in that time? So I guess it depends if they took this feedback exercise as part of the project or not. Anyway, the number of 2s and 3s has decreased, the number of 4s and 5s has increased, so there is again a positive shift. Right, so the next question, if you go back to the graphs tab, now next I wanted to know how useful the 3 skills sessions were. So I had 3 people from around the university come in and give them what I called a skills expert session. So this person would come in, they know about this skill, and they are going to teach you about it. My theory, I hoped that would have more effect than simply me telling them the information, because it would seem like here's this exalted expert from another part of the university who's been brought in to speak to them, and I hope that would give it a sort of aura of credibility. This is something that came to me because of my IMA job, where I go in and give careers advice to students as a representative of the Institute of Mathematics and its applications. What I say is precisely what a lot of the lecturers say and precisely what the careers advisors say, but because it comes from the professional body, it's got this credibility. So I wanted to sort of emulate that experience, I think.